Shalom. So the Torah says, Re'ei anochi noten lifnechem hayom bracha uklala. See that today I placed before you blessing and curse. So what does it mean to open to blessing today? There's a paradox that if we're trying to open to blessing or trying to get blessing, achieve blessing, receive blessing, and trying to avoid the curse, that we actually are choosing curse. Whereas if we are open to whatever arises, regardless of whether we define it as blessing or curse to us, that in that openness, that is actually the receiving of blessing. So to accept the blessing and the curse is to have the blessing. To want the blessing without the curse, that's the curse. Because in the preference for the blessing and not the curse, there is a resistance, an inner contraction, an inner tightness, resisting that which we see as unpleasant. And that tightness itself, that inner contraction, is what creates the sense of me as separate, of me as in need of something. Whereas in the openness to the curse, that meaning openness to that which we perceive as curse, that openness is itself the relaxing of this sense of separate self. And in that field of awareness that's open, there is this inherent wholeness, this inherent blessedness that you can experience as the underlying field of being over which all of the stuff is happening. The wheel of good stuff, the wheel of bad stuff. People often misunderstand this kind of teaching, though, and it sounds like if you are accepting the blessing and the curse, then somehow you are passively accepting evil in the world. That if a robber comes to your door, then you just let them in and let them steal all of your stuff. So it's not saying that at all. Of course, if there's a robber at your door, you keep the door locked and you call 911. You respond with what you need to do in the moment. But in that moment of terror, perhaps, that there's a robber at your door, God forbid, in the moment of experiencing that unpleasantness and experiencing that need to go call 911, there can be this openness even to that experience. There can be this inner openness to what already is, what is happening in the moment, and then from that place, a response. But if there's already resistance to what's happening in the moment, then the response also is going to be distorted. It's going to be not as wise. It's going to have tension in it. So this is perhaps why it says in the second part of the piece I was referring to about, see, I place before you blessing and curse. It says the blessing is that you hear the mitzvah, hear the commandment of Hashem, and the curse is if you don't hear it. So what is the commandment? First of all, the commandment is not something to do, but it's actually what is being done. The commandment is what's happening. Can you hear what's happening in this moment as God's voice, regardless of whether it's positive or negative? Meaning, can you hear the underlying unity of being? Can you be in touch with that wholeness and be that space and receive this moment, whatever's happening? Because then you can do the second part. Then, from that space of openness, there can come a response that is wise, that is bringing forth the best result of blessing that can happen from your response. And that's the doing of the mitzvah, the doing of the commandment. That what is happening in the world, that what happens around you, that what arises in your experience, both internally and externally, can then be expressed as mitzvah, as commandment, in the way that you respond to the world.